Looks like we're live. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I have officially changed the name, and I'm looking down not because I don't care about you all, but because I have to do a little bit of tending because I want this shared out, well, everywhere, pretty much. Speaking of that, okay, so shared a group. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Jackie. I know this part is a little slow, and let's start a watch party. There we go. Okay, I think we're good. Jackie Gold. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm very, very good. And as I was saying, I've decided to change the name. Quarantine All Stars is kind of bumming me out a little bit.
It's like expectance, isn't it?
Yeah. Here in California, the governor is talking about plans to start to slowly reopen the state. And of course, it immediately goes back to political business as usual. I mean, there wasn't even a 24-hour grace period. And I think that this actually segues into what you're here to talk about in a very obscure way, but in a way that's real. It's very difficult for an educational system to thrive in such a highly politicized environment.
It's very, very difficult to.
Yeah.
From the UK's point of view, sitting in the middle of Europe, a lot of the European bless you.
Sorry.
A lot of the European countries have decided to start sending their young kids back to school. And parents are thinking, are they guinea pigs? We don't know what's happening. Right. What's happened in the UK is we've been extended by another 3 weeks. But the thoughts are, again, it's down to politics.
Yeah.
Questions arising as to the real role of education in the economy.
Yeah.
Which has been brought out by this quarantine position.
Yeah.
You see?
I do. I think that there are a lot of ways to go here, but I want to kind of keep this as it would be easy for me to slip off into the politicized side of things.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about how much politics has been in the formal education system and the problems it creates with creating a good place for kids to get education.
Right. It depends, really. The system, the education system is too politicized, if anything.
Right.
The strength of it depends on who's in power.
Yeah.
So I've been through many different versions of it in my life, but I won't tell you how many because it would reveal. But I can tell you, in a Labour government, which would be your version of
democratic, like liberal,
democratic, maybe a little liberal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In those environments, you provide a lot of investment into education because the socialist idea is that the more you put in, the more you get out.
Sure.
Okay. But the problem that then arises is, are you putting in the right things?
Right.
Is just paying for more people to do more courses free the right thing? Is that what education is?
Right.
Do you see?
I do see.
Whereas the other side of the coin, the Republican side, in our case, the Conservative side, sort of says, we are not, education is less important because those who vote Conservative or vote Republican tend to be that little bit more affluent. So they're going to achieve anyway. So there's less investment into it, which again puts the players into a bad position.
Yes.
But only some of the players. So it depends on who's in power as to who benefits the most.
Why don't we take this time to actually, we should have done this in the beginning, talk about who you are and what you do real quick.
Okay.
Because I think it's pretty important. So what's your background?
My background is born and grew up in South London.
Mm-hmm.
Never lived anywhere else but South London, but my spirit home is California.
And why not?
I went to primary school, which was quite happy. I ran into some difficulties at the end of primary school with things that were happening at home.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, it involved abuse from my blood father. And it involved him perpetrating his abuse with threats against my mother, which ended up putting a big boulder on my head, because I had to really balance any thoughts that I had or actions in relation to what he threatened he would do with my siblings. So from a very young age, that was 11 years old that he first raped me, that I took on the role of carer.
Yeah.
And this is why I have the experience today of recognizing the damage of putting that role on a child at an early age.
So is there more? Because I'm really curious to know how those early experiences drive you to become passionate about education. I want to see the thread there.
Right. I want you to imagine something for me, Manny. Imagine a 14-year-old girl, so 3 years on, who's wandering down a corridor at school, because schools, once the lessons are going on, they can be quite quiet. All her thoughts are to herself as she considers everything that's happened in her world, in her life, in her home life, in her school life. She'd started to fail because she'd started falling backwards.
Yeah.
In her head, there's nothing to live for.
Yeah.
You know, home life is in a bad position. School life is in a bad position. What on earth is there to live for?
Right.
Now, education is supposed to be able to operate even for kids who are thinking like that. Okay? It's supposed to put things in place to enable kids with those kind of problems to still operate, still get a good education, still have a chance at life. Unlike this particular 14-year-old who felt like there was nothing to live for.
Yeah.
The government wasn't providing for the education that she needed. Nothing was in place. And it was only at that point that she realized that she had to commit suicide. In her eyes, she had to.
Right.
And she was caught by a teacher as she tried to leave school that day. And it was like a rescue for her. You know, it wasn't like I'm in trouble now. It was like a real rescue plan was put in place. And she was able from there to become an accountant, to get her exams from the things that the teacher taught her, to, you know, resilience, commitment, courage, all of those things, to talk about it. She was able to get her exams, get to university and become an accountant. But in reality, becoming an accountant was just control. What she really wanted was to help others who were in her position. She'd learned to be a carer at a very young age.
Yeah.
And so that is where she decided to start JG Educate after training to become a teacher, getting the experience as a teacher, knowing the life experience that she had, there you have her sitting here today telling you all about it, about the lives that she's changed just by working with them to build a proper education system.
Right. So for you, it was you connected education. I mean, now that you're saying it, I can see how education is potentially a very solid way out if you don't like, if what's happening in your life as a kid is awful.
It's a solid way out when it's organized correctly.
Well, yeah, that we're gonna, yeah, exactly.
Both political sides have in common is that they both use the age-old model, which doesn't actually work anymore.
Right, and we're going to get to that.
Okay,
we're going to
sorry.
get to that. That's okay.
I get very passionate about these things.
Right, and so I just think it's interesting what we're about to get to for those of you watching and listening. Unlike most of the people I bring on here, I do know Jackie and I know her story. And there are so many ways you can go coming through the school system and as an abused child.
Yes.
You can go the way I went. And then, so you might say I went the long way around to get to the.
But you got there.
Yeah, to where we got to. And most people do go the way I went. It sounds like you were at a desperate moment. A teacher came in, helped you with that moment, and what you saw there was different. I find that interesting. What you saw there was, oh, maybe I could be a teacher and help other, be in the educational experience and possibly help other kids. And I'll fast forward us here a little bit. I know that as you got into the educational system, you became disenchanted with a lot of what you saw, right? The results, the way of thinking of the educators, the bureaucracy. Talk a little bit about that and what it was like to sort of come to grips with that.
Right. The teacher that found me, to put it into context,
Mm-hmm.
She was a feisty little thing. Okay. I was 5'11", she was 5 foot, but she was a lot more feisty than I could ever be.
Right.
And she said to me, after she guided me through the system, she said to me, at some point, you need to be a teacher because you know what it feels like to be abused, and you know how to care. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is, it started making sense to me. Mm-hmm. When I went into teaching, what I had was a situation where kids would sort of seek me out. I don't know if they could feel, I've always given this hard knock type of teacher role, where get on my nerves and I'll be, but I've had many students describe me as camembert.
Okay.
They say I'm hard on the outside, but I'm soft on the inside. And that is what they picked up. But what it is that I look at every child. I make a point of knowing every child, so that if there is a problem there, I can sense it.
Yeah.
My problem with the system as is that there's a policy there that says you can only fill in a piece of paper with what you think might have happened and pass it on.
Yeah.
Okay. That person who you've passed it on to doesn't need to ask you another damn thing. So you have to hope that something will be done.
Yeah.
I've had situations in schools where I've asked the question afterwards, you know what I reported to you? And before I could get to the end of my sentence, the response has been, Jackie, what are you going to do? Take them home yourself? You see?
Right.
And that so frustrates me, because when I think about my own situation, it started when I was 11 years old. It started on the day of my interview for secondary school. This guy raped me and then took me to an interview for secondary school. And it ended when my mum decided to divorce him. And for 6 of those years, the knowledge was in the school system.
What does that mean?
That they knew from the time I was 14 about what was happening.
Ah.
But
So all of this has made you somewhat of an evangelist for needing a new educational kind of model.
Vanny, when you have a child so young who's experiencing what you've experienced, who's experiencing what I've experienced, that child is too young to take on board the gravity of what they're experiencing.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
They don't know at that age what and how it will affect their world. That's why you get a lot of angry adults, because they think, just don't say anything, it'll soon pass.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas I believe we'd have more fulfilled adults and a better world in general if we could put in a foundation of some sort into the education system where kids could be built upwards before we start putting in the 3 R's into their life.
So character, social skills, these kind of things, is this what we're talking about?
The 5 that I'm developing courses on are character, commitment. So character as in your self-esteem has been driven down.
Yeah.
We need to build you back up. Give you that character and charisma to be a leader. Commitment to yourself and to society. Courage to be able to stand up and say, this happened to me, but it is not me.
Right.
You know, all of those things, confidence, communication, those 5 bricks together should build a foundation that any child can step up onto and then be ready to say, what do I need to learn to do what I want to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, those were unfortunately missing for me. I was very fortunate to have Miss Carabin, you know, because she, as much as she could, helped me step up where I needed to step up so that I could do the exams that I needed to do. And to a large extent, I'm fortunate in that I'm a tough old boot and, you know, I don't let things beat me down if not possible. But that all comes from my experience.
Yeah.
I could not let my abuser have my life. That's mine.
Yeah. So tell me, in your view, what are the biggest things wrong with the current educational system, educational model? What are the biggest problems you see?
It can all be taken down into structure. Okay. It's like, I always say education is a human right. Right? It's your right to make the best out of your life. Education may be defined as an enlightening experience. Okay. That's a dictionary definition that we have there. But little is in the model represents, for example, Sir Ken Robinson's idea that education can bring remarkable results from improbable beginnings.
Yeah.
You know, That is the model that I go by. In the model that is, you take a person from an affluent background, you take another person from a non-affluent background, you stick them both into a classroom packed full of a mixture of other people, and you teach them to retain what I tell you, to repeat what I told you so that you can retain it, and then to regurgitate it in an exam. But at no point are you saying, and after the exam, make sure that you still repeat it. You see? So it all becomes, it's like a Groundhog Day process, isn't it? That's why kids lose the connection to education and to what it can do for them, because they haven't been built up to the point where they can actually say, and now I need to do this.
So are you saying that for lack of a better word, this part focusing on character and those things, communication, character, charisma, confidence, whatever else it was that you said, I mean, I hear you saying that it needs to be in there. I hear you saying that one of the problems, as you see it with the current model, is that it isn't in there.
It's standardized.
Right. No, I know it's standardized. Yeah. I'm trying to get to, like, I know that it's standardized. I assume that we're all sort of aware of the watered down impact of the learning to the test sort of approach. So do I have it right then that you'd like that what you feel is missing is what I'm going to generally call character, that includes all those other C's that you mentioned?
Yes.
And how do we, besides teaching those soft skills and those sort of intangible skills, how else do we change the system so that we're not just learning to the test?
We have to change the system so that the system replicates what's happening in the world.
Now we're getting somewhere.
If the system doesn't replicate what happens in the world, what are you telling these kids? You're telling them, actually, you have to do this until you're 16. Look at how quickly you taught me the benefits of butter in coffee.
Yes, that's true.
You see, you taught me if you put butter in coffee, your brain works better. I tested it. I saw. I conquered. I now have butter in my coffee. But we're saying to these kids in the current system, you learn the subjects that we're offering you. We're not offering you, you might say, I want to learn food technology. We don't do that at this school, but what we do is geography.
Right.
And this child is going, how's that going to help my life?
So is it just that it's too narrow to do this learn to the test kind of idea? I know I always felt, let's see if I can even articulate what I felt while being in school. There's that great story that I think is sometimes attributed to, is it Ben Franklin? The story about all the animals that go to animal school. And, the squirrels did great at tree climbing, but, but the ducks bombed out and all that. And that's very much how I felt. It's really weird. Even looking back as a kid, it's like, I knew I wasn't stupid. I knew I wasn't stupid. And yet the school system repeatedly told me, that's all it told me. Even in fact, during the 7th, 8th, and 9th grades, when I was not only straight A's, but I was in advanced classes. And in the 9th grade, things just sort of, it was like my plane got shot out of the air. With the advent of puberty having been there for about a year already, lots of marijuana, girls to chase after, just all these distractions, right? That are very real for a recently post-pubescent kid.
Mhm.
And I mean, that wonderful sort of like, oh, you're in advanced classes, you're doing great, just slipped through my fingers. But even during those classes, because of little things like I could get the right answers, but it was hard to show my work in math, things like that, I was treated, reflected back, in many cases told that I wasn't smart. And so maybe a good thing to talk about is what does JG Educate do differently? I really want to just get to, like, I don't know that anyone on this interview is going to be surprised, or it's going to be a revelation to them that the school system, the educational system is broken. But what do we do to fix it?
Right. First of all, we have our foundation course, which is the 5C bricks. Okay. So that our students actually know why they're there. Mm-hmm. We're online to develop that independence of thought, because you actually have to open the computer and you have to log on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to happen otherwise.
Yeah.
It's not such that you have to go to school and you have to do things in a way that you can't. I've had, for example, the best speakers that I've taught have been dyslexic, you know, and have therefore not achieved the grades that they should be getting in their exams because they can't articulate it on paper.
Yeah.
Do you see? I've fought high and low for these kids to be able to be diagnosed so that they can be verbally assessed, right? Because just because they can't write it down doesn't mean they don't know.
Right.
And it has its difficulties along with it, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's not worth it. What we're about is making education more equal for everybody. So you can have your aspiration and we will help you. I call myself an education strategist because I work out the way forward to achieve that goal through, at the moment, through the system that we have. But ultimately, it will be through using some of our methods in which we work to empower the student more than anything else. Not just to blindly say to them, right, you've got a high school education. What on earth is a high school education?
Right.
Do you see? The majority of kids in high school, by the end of high school, they're like, I just want to get out.
Yeah.
And that is not the right way to start within the world, to stop things that have happened, to stop things that have stopped them thinking, and to make the world a better place. Hence, we are there to serve and to try to make changes.
Yeah. So let's go deeper into what that looks like. How far can you go within the approach to education and the approach to actually taking the students? What am I trying to say here? I want to know. It sounds like you're saying that JG Educate is very much takes each student where they are, and it sounds like there is sort of a meeting them at their learning style, a meeting them at their emotional level, all of these things, right? Is that in fact what you're doing?
That approach is exactly what we do.
Okay.
Because it is one of the biggest ethos of the company.
Yeah.
That exactly what you said, squirrels are good at climbing trees.
Right.
Okay. People have their strengths and should therefore be able to have their aspirations and play to their strengths to be able to achieve their aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do that, we work with kids on a very individual level,
Mm-hmm.
keeping the conversations going as we're going along to make sure that they know what they're trying to achieve and stay positive in, see the positives in what they're doing, walking towards the light. I'm not saying for a minute that every day will be light. It wasn't,
Sure, of course.
it wasn't for me, even after meeting Miss Carabin in the corridors, it still didn't make everything right for me from there on till A levels. It never happened that quickly.
Right.
I would say it's in the last 5 years, possibly,
Mm-hmm.
that finally things came to light.
But it's funny how that is.
But we need to be able to give that opportunity to kids so that they have what they need to be able to build this life, not just have what is given.
We're back to the difference between studying for the test and actually learning life skills, right?
Learn life skills. If you're a testy type of person, then by all means, tests can be included in there.
Sure.
But if you're not good at tests, we don't want a qualification available to you which is actually not seen as equal to those who do the tests.
Yeah.
At the moment, we've got in the UK vocational qualifications called BTECs.
Okay.
And when a student takes a BTEC, you tend to get sniggers from other students going, "Oh, it's taking a BTEC," because it hasn't got as many exams.
Uh-huh.
But I usually quieten those who are laughing by telling them that the ones who don't do exams actually work a darn sight harder than the ones who do exams.
Yeah.
Remember your conversation with Rob Garcia?
Yes.
Right, where he said he's a PhD, but he's the dumbest PhD.
He's the dumbest PhD in the world. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I understood what he said. I laughed because I can do exams.
Yeah. Right.
I might not necessarily retain anything.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Yeah.
But I can do exams. What does that, if we have a school system that judges people on the ability to do exams, of course, some are going to do well in the exams, others are not going to.
Right.
Should the others who don't go on to say, well, I didn't do well in school, so I'm not doing anything.
Right. So how do you take someone who is smart but not good at exams through an educational process? What is the grading and the benchmarks? What do those things look like? How do we know? Because this would have really helped me all those years ago.
What we do first of all is determine between the student and their parents, because it has to be a partnership between the students, the parents, and us to make the plan going forward.
Yeah.
Do you necessarily need to stick in the milestones that are in this 150-year-old process? That one. If they do want to, then we design a system which replicates the school system, but it always comes with a little caveat, and that is, it might work for you in future life, it might not. I don't like to do that. I like to be able to give guarantees. So
sure, of course.
So if you're smart and you don't do well in exams, I would recommend a BTEC.
Mm-hmm. What's a BTEC? What's the equivalent of a BTEC here in the States?
Well, we go, you say high school diploma.
Okay.
That is GCSE. What is the one you do after grade 12?
We then go to if you get sort of the according to Hoyle Way, you'd go off to college or junior college, depending on a combination of your grades and your financial resources.
Right. So with us, after year 12, we have year 13, in which you do A levels.
Okay, you rat bastards. Another year.
And believe me, you have a lot of year 12s thinking exactly like that.
you do.
They're like,
Because that's how the year 11s feel over here. Like, oh, God.
And it's that what I want to take out of it. You know, I want because I've often been a sixth form tutor when I was in the school system.
Okay.
And that is year 12s and year 13s.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to get really irritated with me when I'd come in and say, it's exciting, just look at all your world in front of you, and oh my God. And they'd be like, calm down, miss. You know, I'm about to start.
See it.
They can't see it, but I'd love
They
them
can't
to.
see it.
It's all there for them to design. But if they go into it without the right mindset, without that foundation, how are they supposed to access it?
Right. Yeah. This topic brings up so much for me. I mean, I had to go in the 11th grade and literally make a pitch, a presentation to my principal about why I wasn't coming back for any more of the 11th grade, much less the 12th grade. You know, I literally had to pitch him on why I was done. And it's so surreal to look back on that. And you know, the school system failed me profoundly.
Mm-hmm.
It failed me profoundly. I don't know how any educator could look at me and not see that I was creative. You know, and there was, and you know, I came from, I went to school in more poor areas. We didn't have a lot of money. The schools that I went to were, you know, they didn't have good reputations, stuff like that. But I mean, there was just no clear path.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you saying that when a new student comes in, the first thing that JG Educate you does is you have a round table with the parents and the student?
Absolutely.
Okay. And is that where you assess what you think the learning style is, or do you talk about just like kind of different potential strategies? Is there a point there where you assess the learning style and sort of set them on a path based on that?
Right. What we have is a couple of steps in the process. The first step would be to book the free consultation. That is me and the parent.
Right.
In which I'll ask questions about the child, what their difficulties are, if you know what the parent's ideal is, what the child wants to do, etc.
Yeah.
I'll then ask them to have another call with me with the child on, okay, which is especially in these times, in quarantine times, it's on Zoom, so everybody can see each other. It's a full and frank discussion, because if we're not all pulling in the same direction,
right,
we have a problem.
Yeah.
And together we make a plan. I'll make suggestions and we'll see how well it fits.
Yeah.
Because I've had several students before come and say to me, I don't want to do any more exams, you know, but my mom or my dad doesn't want me to do BTECs. And it's about bragging rights with parents. You know, the system's been around so long.
Very much, yeah.
They want to be able to, but you know, what I try and explain to the parent is that it doesn't matter about bragging rights. What matters is that your child is happy enough to go all the way with this qualification and not feel like a quitter if they have to give up halfway through, not feel like a dropout, not feel like, you know, just to feel like they're building something successfully.
Yeah.
You know, it's important also. Sorry, am I going on too much?
Nope.
Okay. I get so.
Yeah. No, I do too. It's a very jugular topic for me.
In these times, Manny, people like you and I heard coronavirus lockdown and went, you know, but that's about all the attention that it gave our life. Because what it meant was we had to pivot slightly and take a different route. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's a very serious virus. I'm not taking away anything from it. It's caused, you know, death. It's caused destruction. It's caused economic destruction. Parents nowadays need to realize that economic destruction will come easier as time goes by, right? This virus has actually shown how easy it is to cause economic destruction.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. So why wouldn't you want your child to go through this process in which they build themselves up to that point that us as entrepreneurs have, where the system can change
And you're still intact.
and you're still standing? Do you see?
I do. So now one of the things that we're talking about, are you saying that there's something inherent in the school system that turns people into employees?
That's exactly what it is.
It feels like that to me too. It feels like it's meant to train you for a 9 to 5.
If you look in the dictionary, Manny, and I wrote this down.
Let's do it.
I write things down when they get on my nerves a little bit. I wrote the definition, the dictionary definition of education is the act or process of imparting or acquiring general knowledge.
Yeah.
Developing the powers of reasoning and judgment, and generally preparing oneself for a job.
See, here's why that kills me. This is why that is such a bitter pill for me, because the word education is derived from the word educe. Educe means to draw out from within.
Mm.
And that is, unless you fit a very narrow mold as a student, it's all but gone.
Yes.
In our educational system, it's certainly, mostly gone. And I gather that in the UK educational system, it's the same thing. There's no focus on drawing out from within anymore.
The process is on spoon feeding you, saying, right, in order to pass this exam, you need to make sure your answer includes that, and that. Now write it on the card, repeat it every day. Remember to write it when you recognize that question in the exam. That is not drawing anything out of anybody.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So not only has the damn definition flipped around, but now it says right in the definition that education is to prepare you for a job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's about getting something that will help you get a job. Now, I tried. My first job was an accountant,
mm-hmm.
and I liked it because it was controlled.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. However, I hated it. Every day was because it didn't challenge me.
Yeah.
I wasn't contributing to the world.
Yeah.
And I did it for 15 years, Manny. Yeah. And then I woke up one morning and said, you know what? And I know, Jacqueline, that you should be doing something else. You should be teaching. You should be contributing to the world. And even when I got into teaching, I'm still very much the girl who colors over the lines. If the lines don't work for me, those lines are going, right? It is becoming clear to everybody that the system doesn't work. So why on earth are we still putting our children into the system?
Right. Yeah. When it overlooks so much of their self, their being. What kind of results are you seeing with the kids that you're getting to work with in through JG Educate?
Oh, my kids make me proud every year. I'm like,
I hoped you'd say that.
I'm like a mother of about 532,000 kids. The amount that have gone through my life. They always, right? And I give that as a guarantee, and anyone can waggle this in front of my face in the future. They always get what they want. Mm-hmm. Because I keep as close an eye on every single student that passes through myself or my tutors or anybody in my team. There's none of this passing a paper over. There's They get my attention. I know them. I know what they want. I know if they're falling down. I know if I need to go and grab them by the scruff of their neck.
Yeah.
But we've never had a university application turned down. All of my kids have been to university. She got a first class, but she was very upset because she didn't get good A levels, right? And she thought she didn't get good A levels because she got 3 Bs and no As. You know, so we're very, our 11 plus exams, we've always got 100% success rate, because our kids know that we care about them. There is no doubt in their minds. You know, the parents, I've even had a parent recently that said, come on now, don't you think you should charge a bit more? You know, you're always there for us. And my response was, your family.
Yeah.
You know, I care about every one of them. So results will never suffer. If you come to us, prepare, because you're not, you can't walk out and fail. Not on my watch.
Yeah. I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing all of this and even helping me to process some of that old frustration as well. Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me, because
you're very welcome.
It's a long road that is still to be walked. But if we want changes in the world, we have to make that change happen.
We do,
right?
Yeah. It's the only way it happens.
I would love to see more kids like you, like me, like everybody who's been in the quarantine All-Stars lineup, who's actually prepared to put themselves out there to serve and to make things happen. Can you imagine how the world would change?
Yeah. And that's the only way it can change. That's the only way it can. We can see, I don't want to go too far into a whole different topic, but we can see that our governing bodies are never going to make any significant change. I think what's that?
Should I tell you, it was in the papers today. Do you know how long it took for the decision in the UK Parliament to shut the schools down?
How long?
9 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So that is how important education is at the moment.
Right. And how long does it take them to make any decisions that are moving that society forward, if they even do?
I can't imagine.
Right. Point made.
It would be one of those that passes from lesson to lesson. You know, it's just not going to happen. We need to take control. I'm happy to take control. I love every new child, no matter how difficult they think they are.
I know that about you, actually. I know that about you. And I think that I would go so far as to say anyone who interacts with you, it's one of the first things you can tell about you. So thank you so much, Jackie.
You're welcome.
I absolutely adore you. As you know, you are one of my favorite people, and I'm so glad you came on today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.